The white wolf should have died long before it reached Lena Hart's door. By the time she heard the scratching, the storm had buried the path to her cottage beneath a foot of snow. Wind screamed through the pines while the fire in her hearth faded to a red glow. Lena almost ignored the sound. Out here, branches scraped wood all the time. Then it came again. Scratch, scratch. A pause. One last, weak drag of claws across the door. Lena set aside the shirt she had been mending and reached for the iron poker beside the hearth. At 24, she had learned kindness did not require carelessness. She lifted the latch with one hand and kept the poker ready with the other. Cold slammed into her face. The cottage was warm near the hearth. Everywhere else, winter pressed through wood. For a moment, she saw only blowing white. Then something small shifted against the threshold. A wolf pup lay half buried in the snow. Its fur should have been pure white, but one foreleg was dark with blood. Ice crusted its belly. A raw band circled one ankle where rope had rubbed the skin bare, and a narrow cut along its side was too clean to have come from rock or claw. The pup raised its head, pale eyes fixed on Lena. It did not growl. It lifted one shaking paw, touched her boot, and collapsed. Oh, damn it. Lena dropped the poker. The wolf weighed almost nothing when she lifted it. That frightened her more than the blood. She carried it inside and laid it before the hearth. Its breathing came fast and shallow. "You picked a bad house if you were hoping for luxury," she muttered. Lena worked quickly. She had treated hunters, feverish children, and once a drunk who put a knife through his own palm. A wolf was different, but blood was blood, and cold killed everything the same way. She heated water, then reached for the wooden box holding the herbs she had meant to make last until spring. Replacing them would cost money she lacked. The wolf gave a thin whine. Lena opened the box. She crushed dried juniper beneath the flat of her knife, warmed pine resin between her fingers, and added a trace of clove. She leaned close, caught the sharp sweetness, and frowned. Too much. She thinned the mixture with warm water and cleaned the cut along the wolf's side. The pup jerked but did not snap. Beneath the blood, Lena found bruising. Someone had restrained this animal. Someone had hurt it. As she cleaned its throat, another detail emerged. A faint silver marking curved beneath the white fur. Not a collar, not paint. It looked almost like a broken crown burned into the skin. Lena touched it once. The pup's eyes opened. "All right," she said softly. "Not touching that again." She wrapped the wound, then looked toward the shelf above the stove. One strip of dried venison remained beside half a heel of bread. That was tomorrow's meal and, unless the weather broke, probably the next day's too. She tore the meat into tiny pieces. The wolf sniffed and turned away. "Don't be noble." She put one small strip into her own mouth, swallowed, then offered the next. The pup ate. There. See? Not poisoned. It ate from her fingers after that. Slowly at first, then with desperate bites until the meat was gone. Lena poured water into a shallow bowl and supported its head while it drank. The fire was still too weak. She looked at the stack of wood near the wall. 4 pieces. Maybe 5 hours of decent heat. She fed 2 into the hearth. Then she took the heavy wool blanket from her bed. That decision cost her a second longer. Without it, she would spend the night in her coat beside the fire. The wolf shivered so hard its teeth clicked. Lena wrapped the blanket around it. "Congratulations," she whispered. "You're now the richest thing in this house." On the mantel sat an old wooden ranger token, its edges worn smooth. Elia's heart had been carved across the back. A deep knife mark split the insignia on the front. Lena glanced at it once before turning away. The past could wait. The living could not. She filled 2 cloth bags with hot stones from beside the hearth, wrapped them, and tucked them against the pup's body. When the wolf finally stopped trembling, Lena sat beside it with her coat buttoned to her throat. Hours passed. The storm worsened. Once, the pup woke and rested its muzzle against her wrist. Lena stroked the fur between its ears until its breathing settled. "You came a long way," she murmured. "I'd like to know why." Near midnight, the wolf's body went rigid. Its head lifted. A low growl rolled from its chest. Lena followed its stare toward the door. At first, she heard only wind. Then came the unmistakable rhythm of hooves crushing snow. One horse, then another, then several more. The riders stopped outside her cottage. Snow hissed beneath the horses' hooves outside Lena's cottage. She rose slowly, one hand still resting on the wolf's blanket. The pup's growl deepened, weak but unmistakable. Whatever stood beyond that door, it recognized the danger before she did. A fist struck the wood. "Open in the name of the crown." Lena did not move. She crossed to the window and wiped frost away with her sleeve. 4 riders waited in the storm, dark cloaks snapping behind them. Their armor was blackened steel, but the crests on their shoulders had been covered with cloth. Beside them stood Warden Pike from the settlement, face pale with cold. A few neighboring doors had opened. Shadows watched from porches and windows. Another knock hit the door. "Lena Hart," Pike called. "Open up." She looked back at the wolf. Its ears were flat. Its body had begun to tremble again. Lena lifted the poker from beside the hearth and opened the door only wide enough to stand in the gap. Wind tore through the room. The tallest rider looked past her shoulder immediately. There it is. His eyes had found the wolf before they found her. "This animal belongs to the crown," he said. "You are in unlawful possession of royal property. It collapsed on my doorstep. Then surrender it." Warden Pike stared at her. "Hart?" The rider glanced at him. Pike swallowed. Her father was Elias Hart. Someone behind the fence whispered, "Traitor's daughter." The words still reached her. Lena kept her face still. She had learned years ago that people grew bolder when they saw Hart flinch. The rider's expression changed. So perhaps the wolf did not arrive here by accident. "I just told you how it arrived." He looked at the patched cottage and nearly empty woodpile. "Or perhaps you knew what a royal animal might be worth." Lena looked back at the empty bowl beside the hearth. Her last meat was gone. Her blanket was wrapped around the pup. The medicine she had saved for winter sat half-spent on the floor. Humiliation burned hotter than anger. Then the wolf made the choice for her. The rider stepped toward the doorway. The pup dragged itself backward until its body pressed against Lena's leg. It was afraid. Lena looked at Pike. "If I stole him, why is he trying to hide from the men claiming him?" Pike hesitated. The tall rider did not. Animals fear many things. He didn't fear me. That proves nothing. It proves enough for me. Pike rubbed a hand over his mouth. "Lena, hand over the wolf. If they're acting under royal authority, this isn't your decision. My judgment isn't the law. I understand." His face tightened. The rider pushed the door wider. Lena blocked him. "You are obstructing crown officers. You're hiding your crests." For the first time, his eyes sharpened. Behind him, another rider shifted a hand toward his sword. Pike noticed too. "Why are the insignias covered?" he asked. "Winter protocol." It was a bad answer. Pike's eyes moved to the covered crests, and Lena saw doubt finally enter his face. Too late to help her, perhaps, but not too late to matter. The wolf growled again. The rider reached for the blanket. Lena moved first. She kicked the iron pot beside the hearth into the flames. Dried fever leaf and bitter root spilled across the coals. Smoke exploded upward, sharp and choking. The rider cursed and stumbled back. Lena grabbed the blanket around the wolf and pulled the pup against her chest. "Back door," she whispered. She made it 3 steps. A second man came through the doorway, coughing, one arm across his face. He caught Lena by the sleeve. She drove the poker across his wrist. He swore and let go. "Take her," the leader snapped. "Not question her. Not arrest her. Take her." That told Lena enough. She ran toward the rear door. A blade cleared its sheath behind her. Then a sound rolled across the settlement. Deep. Measured. A horn. Everyone stopped. A second horn answered beyond the tree line. Then a third. The riders went still. Even Warden Pike lost what little color remained in his face. Outside, the watching neighbors backed away from the road. The tall rider turned toward the forest. For the first time since arriving, he looked afraid. One of his men whispered, "No." Hoofbeats thundered through the storm, heavier now, many more than 4. Lena tightened her arms around the wolf. The wounded rider stared into the darkness. "They found us." The next horn blast drowned out whatever followed. Pike removed his hat. Lena looked at him. "What is that?" He did not answer. The rider did. His voice had gone flat. "The king." The first riders appeared through the snow like shadows given shape. They came fast, black horses cutting through the white road in a disciplined line. Men in royal armor spread across the settlement without shouting. Doors closed, heads lowered. Even Warden Pike stepped away from Lena's cottage and dropped to one knee. The 4 men who had come for the wolf did not run. That frightened Lena more than if they had. Then one final horse emerged from the storm. The man at its back wore no jeweled crown, only a black coat over darker armor. Snow gathered across his shoulders. Yet every soldier around him changed when he appeared. Spines straightened, voices vanished. Lena had never seen Alpha King Ronan Thorne. She knew before anyone said his name. He dismounted without assistance. The tall mercenary lowered his head. "Your Majesty?" Ronan walked past him. His eyes were fixed on the open cottage door. Lena tightened her hold on the wolf. Ash reacted first. The pup's head lifted sharply. A broken, eager sound escaped him. He twisted inside the blanket. "Easy," Lena whispered. Ash struggled until one paw struck the floor. Ronan crossed the threshold. The wolf tried to stand. One step, then another. His injured leg folded. Ronan dropped to his knees before Ash hit the floor. The movement shocked the room into silence. The man every northern pack feared was kneeling on Lena Hart's rough floorboards, one hand beneath the pup's chest, the other cupping his head. "Ash." The wolf pressed his muzzle into Ronan's palm. Something in the king's face broke. Only for a second. His eyes closed, his shoulders lowered by a fraction. "You stubborn little bastard," he murmured. Ash tried to lick his hand. Lena had expected the Alpha King to look like the stories. Cold, merciless, impossible to reach. The man kneeling beside her hearth looked none of those things. Not yet. Ronan's gaze moved over Ash's bandaged side, the rope burns, the hot stone cloths, then stopped on the blanket. "This is yours." It was. His eyes lifted to her. For the first time, the full force of his attention landed on Lena. She understood why people lowered their heads around him. His gaze dropped to her reddened fingers, then the empty shelf and half-spent herb box. "How much did you use?" "Enough." "For him?" He was bleeding. Ronan glanced toward the bed. "No blanket." "You gave him your food." "He needed it more." "Your medicine." "He needed that too." "And your only blanket." Lena exhaled. "Are kings always this interested in household inventory?" One royal guard shifted. Ronan only looked at Ash. "You could have frozen." "So could he. He is a wolf." He was alive. The answer landed harder than Lena expected. Ronan went still. His jaw tightened. His thumb moved once through the white fur between Ash's ears. When he turned slightly away, Lena saw moisture gather at the corner of one eye. A single tear slipped free before he wiped it away. No one spoke. Lena suddenly felt she had witnessed something she had not been meant to see. Ronan recovered first. He looked toward the open doorway. Who accused her of stealing him? Warden Pike glanced toward the tall mercenary. "He did, Your Majesty." Ronan looked at Ash, at the rope burns beneath the bandage, then at the man. "She did not steal my wolf." His voice was quiet, but it carried beyond the doorway. Pike heard him. So did the neighbors still watching from the road. The mercenary opened his mouth. "Disarm them," Ronan said. "Take all 4 alive." Royal soldiers moved at once. Swords were stripped away, and wrists bound before any of the men could protest. Ronan turned back to Lena. The correction should have satisfied her. It did not. He slid one arm carefully beneath Ash. "Help me." Lena knelt opposite him. "Support the hindquarters. His left side is worse." Ronan obeyed. They lifted together. Lena adjusted the blanket under Ash's injured leg, and the back of her hand brushed Ronan's wrist. The contact lasted less than a heartbeat. Heat flashed through her palm and up her arm, sharp enough to steal her breath. Ronan's hand locked around the blanket, his eyes snapped to hers. For one strange second, everything else disappeared. Not attraction. Not exactly. Recognition without memory. Ronan released the blanket first. His expression hardened so quickly Lena almost wondered if she had imagined it. "Captain." A broad-shouldered officer stepped through the doorway. "Yes, Your Majesty." The words struck Lena harder than the touch had. She looked at Ronan, at the black armor, at the soldiers outside, at the man holding the wolf she had nearly frozen to save. Ronan Thorne, Alpha King of the Northern Pax. The same name stamped beneath the royal seal on the judgment that had condemned Elias Hart. Lena's hands went cold for an entirely different reason. Ronan saw the change in her face. Before he could ask, Lena stepped away. Whatever softness she had felt watching him kneel beside Ash vanished. The king who loved this wolf was also the king who had signed her father's death. Ronan did not ask why Lena had stepped away from him. Not yet. His captain entered while two soldiers carried Ash toward the waiting medical sled. "Your Majesty, we found another set of tracks behind the eastern tree line. One horse. It never entered the settlement." Lena looked up. "A fifth rider?" "Maybe a lookout," the captain said. "Maybe someone making sure the others finished the job." "Finished what job?" No one answered quickly enough. Ronan looked toward the four bound men in the road. "Search the property." Soldiers moved at once. Lena folded her arms. "You could start by telling me why armed men came here wearing covered crests." "I intend to." "When?" "When you are no longer standing in a house someone may already have marked." "That sounds like an order." "It is." Outside, soldiers checked the woodpile, shed, and frozen path behind the cottage. The neighbors who had watched Lena be called a thief had mostly disappeared indoors. Ronan stepped closer. "You are leaving this house tonight." "No." His eyes narrowed. "Lena." "No." The words seemed to surprise every soldier within earshot. Ronan's voice dropped. "You will come." The pressure hit before she understood what had changed. It was not volume. Something in the command pressed against her bones, heavy and instinctive, as if obedience were suddenly the safest choice. Her knees threatened to soften. Anger steadied them. Lena dug her nails into her palms and stayed upright. "No." For one hard second, Ronan stared at her. Then the pressure vanished. His jaw tightened. "I should not have done that." "No, you should not have." He took one deliberate step back, then chose without it. Before she could answer, a soldier entered holding a strip of dark cloth. "Found this behind the woodshed." The cloth smelled sharp even from where Lena stood. "Lamp oil," she said. The captain nodded. "And more soaked into the ground." Ronan's face went cold. Someone had prepared to burn the cottage. Lena looked toward the hearth, the shelves, the ranger token on the mantel. Her entire life fit inside one room, and suddenly it felt less like a home than a target. Ronan followed her gaze. The token read Elias Hart. The name changed him. Lena noticed. "You know it?" "Yes." "My father." "I know. You signed his judgment." The cottage seemed to shrink around them. Ronan looked at the ranger insignia split by a knife mark. "I did." No excuse, no polished royal language. The simplicity made Lena angrier. "You stood outside 5 minutes ago and told everyone I didn't steal your wolf." Ronan looked back at her. "My father never got that." His silence lasted too long. "Did you even look at the evidence?" "I believed the officers who brought it to me." "That wasn't my question." Ronan's face hardened, but not at her. "No, not enough." There it was. "Not innocence." Responsibility. Lena swallowed against the old ache in her throat. Then don't expect me to trust you because you knelt beside a wounded animal. I don't. The answer stopped her. Ronan continued, if my seal killed your father because I accepted a lie, then my authority killed him whether I knew the truth or not. Lena had spent 8 years imagining this moment. She had never imagined he would agree with her. A shout came from outside. The captain returned. No rider. Tracks head north. Whoever it was left before we arrived. Ronan nodded, then looked at Lena. You have 3 choices. Stay here with guards, go to Greyhaven under escort, or come to the fortress, where Ash can be treated, and these men questioned. Pike appeared behind the captain, shame written across his face. Lena, I can put 2 settlement men here with the royal guards. She almost asked whether those same men would have believed her an hour ago. There was no point. Protect the house, she said, not my reputation. Pike lowered his eyes. Before leaving, Lena packed only her healer's satchel, 2 shirts, and the small box containing what remained of her winter herbs. Ronan reached toward the box once, then stopped himself before touching it. Anything else? My father's token. She already had it. Then nothing else matters tonight. Lena glanced toward the road. Ash lifted his head weakly beneath her blanket. The sensible choice was Greyhaven, but the wolf had crossed miles of winter forest to reach her. Men had followed. Someone had prepared to burn her alive, rather than let the animal remain there. And the king who signed her father's death had just admitted he might have signed a lie. Lena took the ranger token from the mantle and closed her hand around it. I'm going to the fortress. Ronan's expression revealed nothing. Because I ordered you to? Her eyes snapped to his. No. She walked past him toward Ash. Because someone tried to kill your wolf. Someone tried to burn my house, and I want to know why he came to me. Ronan watched her pull her coat tighter. For the first time since entering the cottage, he did not issue another command. Then we leave together. By dawn, the royal fortress had swallowed Lena whole. Its black walls rose from the mountain like something carved out of winter itself. The carriage passed 3 checkpoints before entering the inner courtyard. Lena had expected noise. Instead, the place felt controlled down to the last footstep. Ash was taken first. 2 royal healers waited with a padded litter, but the wolf resisted until Lena climbed down beside him. I'm coming. Only then did he stop struggling. Ronan noticed. He had ridden beside the carriage most of the journey. Snow clung to his coat, exhaustion sharpening his face, but the moment Ash was carried toward the infirmary, the king followed. The royal treatment room was larger than Lena's cottage. Shelves held clean linen, surgical tools, herbs, oils, and resins worth more than everything she owned. A servant hurried over with a clay pot. For sealing the dressing, miss. Lena opened it, smelled once, and handed it back. That's pine with juniper ash. I need clean pine resin. The servant blinked. You knew that by smell? I know what I work with. Ronan's attention lingered. A new voice entered behind them. Your Majesty? The man who stepped inside was perhaps 20 years older than Ronan, silver at his temples, his dark coat marked only by a narrow chain of office. Ronan's shoulders eased slightly. Voss. Lord Evander Voss inclined his head, then looked toward Ash. We received word before sunrise. I hoped the reports exaggerated his condition. They did not. Voss turned to Lena. And this must be Miss Hart, Elias Hart's daughter. She stiffened. You knew my father? I knew of him. He served the crown during difficult years. That is a gentle way to describe how his service ended. No wording would make it gentler. It was the first answer in the palace that did not sound rehearsed. If you wish to see his surviving records, I can arrange access once His Majesty approves. I approve, Ronan said. No resistance. No attempt to hide uncomfortable history. That made Lena trust Voss more than she wanted to. Voss even ordered the archivists not to remove sealed pages merely because they reflected badly on the crown. If there is something ugly in those records, he said, you should see the ugliness, not a cleaner copy. It sounded like exactly the kind of honesty Lena had wanted from the palace. Before noon, a maid quietly warned Lena that a different version of the story had already reached the servants' quarters. The poor healer had found a valuable royal wolf and tried to keep it until the king came for him. The same lie crossed the mountains faster than we did, Lena said. Ronan's expression hardened. Who started it? It doesn't matter. People wanted to believe it. Why? Because Traitor's daughter wanted something valuable is easier than believing I gave without asking what Ash was worth. Voss, still nearby, studied her. That kind of rumor can become dangerous. It already has. That afternoon, before assigning Lena a chamber, Ronan summoned the Master of Law. The old man carried a silver clasp shaped like a thorned crown. This is King's personal protection, Ronan said. While you wear it, no pack officer, noble house, or royal guard may detain or question you by force without my warrant. Lena stared at it. So I am protected by the authority I told you I don't trust. Yes, at least you understand the problem. Protection is not a declaration of innocence. It means no one gets to decide what you are before evidence is tested. And if I'm accused? The Master of Law answered, ordinary charges do not cancel it. A formally certified charge of treason or conspiracy can activate the neutrality clause. Then His Majesty cannot both maintain personal protection and control the Crown investigation, because the protection itself makes him an interested party. Exactly. Lena took the clasp. So even the king is limited by it. That, Ronan said, is the point. She pinned it at her throat herself. Ronan later ordered her moved to a guarded guest chamber in the eastern wing. She refused a locked door. He refused to remove the guards. They compromised badly. 2 guards stayed in the corridor, but Lena kept the key and could reach the infirmary, treatment rooms, and archive. Their orders were to stop strangers from entering, not to stop Lena from leaving the permitted wing. She made Ronan repeat that in front of them. You call it protection whenever you are afraid, she told him. I call it protection when armed men try to burn your house. And when the danger is gone, I'll decide. There, that. His jaw tightened. Then he stepped back. You keep the key. It was not surrender, but it was movement. 2 days later, Voss kept his promise. In the Western Archive, Lena had just opened the first surviving ledger carrying Elias Hart's name when a cracked clasp sliced her palm. Blood welled quickly. At the same moment, 3 floors above, Ronan stopped in the middle of a council meeting. He did not know why, only that something was wrong. By the time he reached the archive, Lena had wrapped her hand in linen. What happened? A paper cut with ambition. Ronan crossed the room, took a wrist, and examined the bandage. Then he seemed to realize what he was doing. Lena looked from his hand to his face. How did you know? Ronan released her. Across the room, Voss had arrived behind him, having followed the king from the interrupted council. His eyes moved from Ronan to Lena, then to the council papers still clutched in Ronan's hand. Something in his expression changed. Not surprise. Calculation. Ash began walking again on the 3rd morning. Not well, not far, but enough to make Lena suspicious. The wolf crossed the infirmary floor with stiffness in his left hind leg, stopped at the door, and looked back at her. You're supposed to be resting. Ash scratched once at the wood. Ronan, standing near the window, folded his arms. He has never been good at following orders. That makes 2 of us. Lena opened the door. Ash limped into the corridor. He did not wander. He ignored servants, kitchens, open stairwells, and every scent that should have distracted a young wolf. He chose one corridor, then another, always northward through the fortress. Lena followed. Ronan followed her. At an old service passage behind the Western Archive, Lena crouched and examined the scars on Ash's paws. The cuts are deepest on the outer edges. Ronan frowned. Meaning? He kept correcting in the same direction. If he'd been running blindly, the damage would be uneven. He wasn't just fleeing. He was holding a route. To here? No. Lena looked toward the north-facing window. toward the forest beyond it. Away from here, toward me. Silence settled between them. Why would he know you? I don't think he knew me. Ash stopped before a locked storage room. Inside, the archivist found old military ledgers, retired kennel records, and boxes covered in dust. Lena found Elias Hart's name in the third ledger. Ranger Unit 7. Border Patrol. Then a transfer notation. Temporary attachment. Royal Wolf Handling Detail. My father never told me. Most wolf assignments were classified during the border unrest, Ronan said. Ash pushed his nose against the page. Lena looked at him. So he knew the Hart scent. Possibly the family line. Royal wolves remember those associations better than human faces. That explained why Ash had run north. Lena looked at the wolf more carefully. So he did not choose my house by chance. No, he shows a heart. Ronan nodded once. The realization landed strangely. For years, the Hart name had only opened old wounds or closed doors. Ash had crossed a frozen forest because the same name meant safety to him. It did not explain why someone wanted him dead. Lena turned the page. The final entry under Elias's service record read, "Request for direct Crown audience regarding irregularities in royal sealing procedure." No audience date followed. No response. 3 blank lines. Then his arrest. He tried to tell you. Ronan did not answer. Did he get the audience? No. How do you know? Because I would remember. Lena hated that she believed him. One corner of the page felt stiffer beneath her fingers. Wait. She lifted it toward the light. A faint sheen marked the paper near the binding. The archivist glanced over. Old restoration. Lena leaned closer. Pine. Clove. And something drier beneath it. This page was treated differently. Pages are repaired all the time. Not like the others in this ledger. She compared the neighboring sheet, then checked the inner margin. The stitching beneath the Elias page did not match the older thread. This page was taken out, or rebound, the archivist said. Then where is the repair docket? He hesitated. Ronan's attention sharpened. Find it. Lena traced the inner edge. A narrow strip of parchment had once been tucked beneath the replacement stitching. Only a pale line remained. Something was removed when this page was rebound. Ronan looked at the blank space after Elias's request. His message? Maybe. Or a response. Not proof. But now they had something specific to search for. Ash suddenly growled toward the doorway. Lord Voss stood there. I was told you found an older record room. Ronan closed the ledger. Elias Hart served with the Royal Wolves. So did several rangers during that period, Voss said easily. Lena watched Ash. The wolf stopped growling when Voss moved farther from the doorway. A detail. Nothing more. Voss looked at the open page. Did you find what you were looking for? I found that my father asked to speak to the king before he was arrested. Voss's expression softened. I'm sorry. Were you here then? I was. Did you know about the request? I händel hundos. It was not an answer. Lena looked at Ronan. My father was convicted 3 days later. And you signed it? Yes. That evening, an old beta named Garrick found Lena outside Ash's infirmary. You should know what the king will not say. What happened when you touched him at the cottage, and when you cut your hand and he felt it. Lena went still. Royal Alpha blood sometimes forms a sovereign bond before either person accepts it. It can sharpen awareness, pain, and protective instinct. Can it come on me? No. Make me love him? No. Make him own me? No. Instinct is not law, and if Ronan loses control, then Ronan is responsible for what he does with that instinct. The bond is not an excuse. Does he know that? Garrick's mouth twitched. He knows it intellectually. The rest may take longer. That answer mattered to Lena. The bond could explain pressure without excusing a single choice either of them made. Lena gave a humorless breath. So it complicates everything. and solves nothing. Exactly. When Ronan returned, she was waiting. Whatever this bond is between us, it does not get to decide what I forgive. His face went still. You owe me nothing. No forgiveness, no trust, no loyalty, no forgiveness. His answer hurt more than a defense would have. Lena looked back toward the archive passage. My father tried to reach you. Someone stopped him. Someone removed something from that ledger. Yes. And if that same someone is still here? Ronan's eyes hardened. Then we find out who taught me to believe the lie. By noon the next day, everyone in the Great Hall knew Lena Hart's name. Not because she had saved the royal wolf, because she was accused of betraying the crown. The summons had come before breakfast. Lena was ordered to appear before the full council under King's protection, the silver clasp Ronan had issued pinned at the throat of her dark cloak. She had almost refused to wear it. Then she understood what refusing would look like. So she entered the hall with her chin high, and Ash walking beside her. Pack leaders filled the benches. Commanders and foreign envoys lined the stone walls. At the far end, Ronan sat on the black throne. Voss stood below him with 3 sealed folders. Lena saw the shape of the trap before he spoke. Miss Hart, Voss said, calm as ever. Documents were recovered from your guest chamber early this morning. A murmur moved through the hall. Ronan did not look at Lena. Present the evidence. The first folder contained letters written in a rebel cipher. The second held a route map marking the northern gate and 2 military supply roads. The third contained a statement from one of the captured men from Lena's cottage. He claimed they had been sent to retrieve messages from a Hart contact inside the fortress. Lena laughed once. It sounded wrong in the silence. I've been here 3 days. Voss inclined his head, which is why I would prefer this accusation to be false. You expect me to believe those papers were sitting in my room? I expect the law to examine them. A legal officer stepped forward. Royal Archive has certified the parchment and sealing materials as consistent with Crown holdings. A second officer followed. Military intelligence has certified the route markings and cipher structure as genuine. Ronan's fingers tightened once against the throne. Lena saw it. She also understood what came next. The Master of Law rose. Dual certification activates the neutrality clause. Whispers spread faster this time. Ronan had explained the law after granting her protection. The Crown could not guarantee someone's honor while controlling a treason case against them. The Master continued, if His Majesty maintains King's personal protection, the matter leaves Crown jurisdiction and passes to the Pack Tribunal. Lena knew why that was dangerous. Too many tribunal seats belonged to houses Voss had cultivated for years. If His Majesty recuses himself, the Master said, the tribunal assumes authority for evidence and inquiry. And if I suspend protection? Ronan asked. The Crown retains jurisdiction. You may order verification, but Miss Hart must stand as an accused subject until the charge is resolved. There it was. No clean door. Voss did not smile. That made Lena hate him more. Ronan looked at her at last. For one suspended second, the hall disappeared. Then Voss opened the final folder. This is not the first time Miss Hart has been found in possession of Crown property under questionable circumstances. Lena went cold. The wolf. A pack lord leaned toward another. First the wolf. Now royal records. Someone behind them whispered, Heart blood. The words were the same ones from outside her cottage, only now wrapped in silk, law, and stone. Voss continued. Her father, Elias Hart, was convicted of treason after irregular contact with hostile border factions. It is reasonable to consider whether— Reasonable? Lena cut in. The hall reacted as if she had drawn a knife. Voss turned. You accused me of stealing Ash when I had used my last food to keep him alive. Now you are using my father's conviction to make these papers look true before anyone has proved who put them in my room. I did not accuse you of stealing the wolf. No, men acting under false authority did, and the story reached this palace anyway. One noble muttered, perhaps because it fit. Another voice answered, Rot runs in a bloodline. Ronan stood. The hall went silent instantly. Enough. His voice did not rise. Evidence may be examined. Bloodlines will not be prosecuted in my hall. The noble lowered his head. Voss lifted one hand. Of course, Your Majesty. I refer only to the record of Elias Hart, the convicted traitor. The conviction, Ronan said, may be cited. The man will not be used as license for insult. Something in Lena's chest twisted. It was not enough, but it was not agreement either. Ronan looked to the Master of Law. If I maintain her protection, I lose jurisdiction? Yes, Your Majesty. If I recuse? The same. And suspension keeps the inquiry here. Yes. Ronan's gaze returned to Lena. She knew what he was about to do. The silver clasp at her throat suddenly felt heavier than armor. Under the neutrality clause, Ronan said, I suspend King's personal protection over Lena Hart until the evidence against her is tested. The word suspend should have mattered. It did not. The Master of Law approached. Not Voss. Not a guard. Ronan had at least denied them that. Lena stood still while the older man unfastened the silver clasp from her cloak. The tiny click echoed through the hall. 3 days earlier, a settlement had watched Ronan clear her of stealing his wolf. Now the ruling class watched his protection disappear from her throat. A guard stepped to either side of her. Not touching. They did not need to. Voss closed the folders. Until the inquiry is complete, Miss Hart should be confined. Ronan's face had become unreadable. The Crown will neither shield her from evidence, nor condemn her before it is tested. Lena looked around the hall, at people who had already decided, at lords who saw Elias when they looked at her. They called me a thief before they knew why the wolf was in my house, she said. No one moved. Now you call me a traitor before you know why those papers were in my room. Her eyes found Ronan. He was still standing beside the throne, powerful enough to command the hall, but not enough to erase the law without destroying the investigation. Lena hated that she understood the difference. 8 years ago, she said, paper was enough for you. Ronan's jaw tightened. This time it won't be. She held his gaze. Then prove it. The guards turned toward the northern doors. Ash growled from beside Lena. She touched his head once. Stay. For the first time since the wolf had arrived at her door, he obeyed. Lena walked out of the great hall without the king's protection clasp, carrying the same name the court had just tried to turn into evidence against her. The northern tower had no bars. That almost made it worse. From the narrow window, Lena could see the road toward her cottage and the black line of the forest where people had first called her a thief. A guard stood outside the door. Another waited at the stairwell. No chains. No protection either. She kept hearing the click of the silver clasp leaving her throat. Somewhere below, officers were deciding whether Lena Hart had entered the fortress to betray the crown. A scratch sounded at the door. Ash pushed through before the guard could stop him and dropped something beside Lena's boot. A torn edge of parchment. The scrap carried a smear of dark sealing compound. Lena touched it, then brought her fingers to her nose. Pine, clove, juniper ash. At her cottage, she had worked with the same materials. In the treatment room, she had rejected pine mixed with juniper for Ash's wound. And the Elias ledger had carried a related scent. But this was not the official archive blend. I need the king. Ronan arrived soon after with only his captain. What have you found? Not enough. That makes 2 of us. She held out the parchment. Pine resin, clove, juniper ash. The archive uses resin. Not like this. Juniper dries damp paper quickly, but it makes parchment brittle. The main restoration rooms avoid it. Who would use it? Field healers, old military clerks, anyone who values speed over preservation. That does not tell us who made the papers. No, it tells us where not to look. She placed the scrap beside copies of the forged evidence. If the same residue is on these, they were not prepared at the main restoration desk. Ronan turned to his captain. How many secondary document rooms keep their own preservation supplies? 3. Do not search them. Pull only supply requisitions and access records. Lena noticed the distinction. He did not want a convenient discovery. He wanted a chain. A raid on Voss's office would tell the entire palace whom Ronan suspected and give every guilty clerk time to destroy what remained. Records could be compared without warning anyone. For once, patience was not hesitation. It was strategy. "What have you found?" she asked. "The letters use archive ink, but 6 offices draw from the same batch. The map was cut from a survey roll borrowed by 3 departments. The man who accused you received payment through a merchant network we have not traced. So everything points everywhere. Yes, which means if I arrest the first person with access, I repeat the mistake that killed your father." Lena held his kase. "Then don't." "I won't." Ronan set another paper on the table. Garrick found the repair docket for Elias's ledger. Lena straightened. The page was rebound 2 days after he requested his audience. 1 folded attachment was logged with it before repair. And now? Missing. Her mind returned to the pale line beneath the replacement stitching. "Can you trace the restoration number?" "The old catalog is incomplete, but it should identify the desk and packet route." So the missing document had not appeared conveniently. They had only found the road it once traveled. Ronan placed a copy of one intercepted letter on the table. One phrase appears twice. "Winter answers to no crown. Military intelligence thinks it is a rebel cipher marker." Lena read it again. "No. You're certain? It isn't a slogan. It has the rhythm of a memory line. My father used lines like this when he taught me plant names, old quotations, pieces of poems, anything with a cadence he could attach information to. Could Elias have known it? He carried crown material while serving with the wolves, didn't he?" Ronan went still. Diplomatic correspondence. They finally had a direction. The captain returned. 2 secondary rooms, requisition ordinary pine compound. The Chancellor's working archive still requisitions juniper ash for older field files. Lena felt no triumph. That narrows a preparation site, not Voss. "Agreed," Ronan said. "Nothing moves until the other trails meet it." The restoration number from Elias's ledger also carries an Eastern restricted storage prefix, the captain added. "We need the sealed routing book to identify the desk." "What about the missing attachment?" Lena asked. "If it was misfiled during rebinding, the routing book may tell us which packet received it. If it was deliberately destroyed, we will at least know where the trail ended." "Get it without alerting the Chancellor's office," Ronan said. The captain nodded. "And the diplomatic phrase?" "Search by wording, not by rebel classification." Lena is right. If intelligence labeled it incorrectly, the index would never connect the two. That was the first time one of Ronan's officers adjusted an official search because of her inference rather than merely tolerating her presence. When the captain left, Ronan remained. "There is something else." Lena knew she would not like it. "For several hours today, I believe the evidence against you might be real." The words hurt anyway. "I wanted it false. That is not the same as knowing. And if you had believed it? 8 years ago, I would have acted before checking. And now? Now I check everything. That doesn't erase the whole." "No. Or my father. No." His refusal to defend himself made anger harder to use as armor. Lena looked at the torn parchment. "Then stop trying to prove I'm innocent." Ronan frowned. "Prove where the lie came from." Agreement passed between them without rank or force. "I'll trace the quotation and restoration number," Ronan said, "and I'll keep reading the materials themselves." "You are confined. You came because I found something your investigators missed. A pause. From this room. I can work with that." He reached the door. Ash moved to Lena's side instead of following. "Keep him with you," Ronan said. "No argument." "I'm learning." After he left, Lena picked up the scrap again. Pine, clove, juniper. Her father had died because someone trusted the surface of a document. This time, She intended to learn what the paper itself remembered. The great hall looked exactly as it had the day Lena lost the silver clasp. Same black throne, same stone floor, same pack leaders and commanders watching from the benches. Lena stood in the same place. No protection at her throat. Not yet. Truth first, Ronan had told her. Then, restoration. Voss stood below the throne with his usual calm intact. If this hearing is intended to conclude Miss Hart's case, he said, I assume the Crown has reached a finding. It has reached a chain, Ronan replied. An officer brought forward the forged letters and map. The parchment came from Crown survey stock, Ronan said. The ink came from a batch used by 6 royal officers. The sealing material was prepared inside the fortress. Voss lifted one hand. That proves access, not authorship. Correct. The case against Lena had depended on the claim that she brought rebel material into the palace. That claim was already broken. One of the pack lords who had muttered about Heartblood shifted in his seat. Another stared down at the evidence as if it had changed shape in front of him. Ronan turned toward her. Miss Hart. Lena stepped forward. The Royal Archive uses pine and clove on old parchment. The papers found in my room carry juniper ash, too. Voss's expression did not change. Juniper dries damp paper quickly, but makes parchment brittle. The main archive does not use it in active restoration. The Chancellor's working archive still does. Old documents pass through many rooms, Voss said. Residue proves little. One page might carry old residue. Lena held up the 4 forged documents. Not 4 documents supposedly prepared in different years, all carrying the same blend. Ronan continued before the exchange became a lecture. 3 trails were examined. The sealed phrase used in the letters, the survey parchment used for the map, and the Elias Hart ledger altered 8 years ago. 3 ledgers were placed on the table. Different departments touched each trail. Only one coordinating structure could request all 3 without cross-department notice. The Chancellor's coordinating office. A murmur moved through the hall. Lena saw several of the same faces from her humiliation turn toward Voss instead of her for the first time. Voss did not flinch. My office coordinates half the Crown's records. Intersection is not conspiracy. No, Ronan said. It is opportunity. He lifted a routing copy. The phrase, winter answers to no crown, came from diplomatic packet E17, removed from restricted storage 3 months ago. The routing record shows it passed through the Western Restoration desk. Voss cut in. That is impossible. E17 went directly to the Eastern desk because Western Restoration was closed that week for furnace repair. Silence. Ronan waited. The furnace closure appears only in a sealed maintenance docket attached to E17, he said. It was opened this morning under my warrant. Voss recovered quickly. I am Chancellor. Operational disruptions cross my office. Usually, this one did not. Your office received notice 2 days after the packet had already moved. For the first time, Voss had no immediate correction. The slip was not proof by itself. It mattered because the structure beneath it already existed. Ronan set down one final sheet. The restoration number tied to Elias Hart's rebound ledger led us to sealed restricted storage. A folded attachment had been catalogued under the wrong packet after the ledger was repaired. Lena stopped breathing. Ronan read the relevant line. Elias Hart requests immediate audience with the Crown regarding duplicated royal seals and unauthorized orders bearing royal authority. The hall went still. For 8 years, the official record had required Lena to carry her father's shame as fact. Now the fact itself had changed in front of the people who had weaponized it. Elias Hart did not betray the Crown, Ronan said. He died trying to warn it. Lena looked at the men who had whispered traitor's blood. None met her eyes. The pack lord who had said rot ran in a bloodline rose slowly and bowed his head to her. Lena did not acknowledge him. Public shame did not vanish because the room had finally become embarrassed by it. Ronan faced Voss. You built the machinery that buried his warning. Then he faced the hall, and I signed the judgment that made your lie fatal. The Master of Law stepped forward with the silver clasp removed from Lena 3 days earlier. Ronan came down from the throne and took it himself. Lena Hart, may I restore the protection I suspended. The same witnesses watched. This time the choice was hers. Yes. Ronan fastened the clasp at her throat. The small click echoed differently this time. Days earlier, the same hall had watched protection leave her while suspicion swallowed her name. Now those witnesses watched it return only after the evidence had been broken apart in front of them. No one whispered traitor's daughter. Metal scraped stone behind them. One of Voss's loyal guards drew a blade and struck Ronan's captain aside. Voss seized Lena from behind, a knife flashing beneath her jaw. Ronan moved, then stopped. Every instinct in him demanded attack. Lena met his eyes and gave the smallest shake of her head. Trust me. Voss tightened his grip. You see? He hissed. Fear still moves you. Lena let her knees buckle. Voss adjusted automatically, hauling her higher. That was the opening. Her hand found the healer's pouch at her waist. She tore it free and crushed the powder into his face. Voss recoiled, choking. The knife lifted away. Only then did Ronan move. One strike knocked the weapon aside. Another drove Voss to the stone. Royal guards closed around him. Lena stumbled back, breathing hard. Ronan looked at her. He had understood. For once, the Alpha King had trusted her long enough to let her create the way out. 3 days after Voss was taken from the Great Hall, Ronan summoned the court again. This time there were no envoys, no military display, no accusation waiting beneath sealed folders. Only the senior pack leaders, the Master of Law, and families whose names had appeared in the records Voss controlled. Lena stood near the back. The silver protection clasp remained at her throat. Ronan stood before the throne instead of sitting on it. The Master of Law placed a single document on the table. Under the old crown statutes, Ronan said, a judgment of treason signed and sealed by the Alpha King could not be appealed after sentence was carried out. Lena knew the law. It was why Elias Hart had remained a traitor on paper for 8 years. Ronan looked at her once. My signature made that law final. No one moved. I believed evidence I did not test. Evander Voss created the lie, but I gave it authority. That part belongs to me. He picked up the document. Today, it ends. A murmur moved through the chamber. One pack lord rose. Your Majesty, the right of final judgment has belonged to the crown for generations. I know. Removing it weakens the throne. Yes. The answer silenced him. Ronan signed. From that day forward, any royal conviction for treason could be independently reviewed if contradictory evidence emerged, even after the king had sealed judgment. It was not forgiveness. It was a piece of power Ronan could have kept and chose to surrender because keeping it would mean Elias had died beneath a law the king still considered acceptable. The Master of Law turned to the second page. By order of the crown, the conviction of Elias Hart is void. His service record is restored in full. His confiscated property and ranger honors revert to his surviving heir. Lena's breath caught. She had imagined hearing those words so many times that the real thing felt strangely quiet. Ronan dismissed the court before approaching her. It doesn't bring him back, she said. No, it doesn't give me the 8 years they took. No. His refusal to soften the truth hurt less now. Ronan glanced toward the law he had signed. It only makes sure his death does not keep protecting the power that killed him. Lena studied him. That was a very expensive apology. It wasn't an apology. No? An apology is words. For once, she had nothing sharp to give him. Later that afternoon, Lena returned to her guest chamber and found the corridor empty. No guards. Ronan stood near the window. You removed them. Yes. Because Voss is gone? Because you never asked for them. He stopped several feet away. The crown does not require you to remain here. Lena's fingers brushed the silver clasp. And your wolf? Ash will survive the heartbreak. She almost smiled. I meant the other one. Ronan's expression changed. The bond between them had been quiet since the Great Hall, but not absent. It was no longer a command, only an awareness she had not chosen. "My wolf wants you here," Ronan said. "And you?" "So do we." There was no hesitation. "But wanting is not permission." Lena studied him. "If I leave, I will not stop you. If I leave the northern packs?" His jaw tightened. "I will not stop you." That answer cost him. She could see it. Good. Some debts should cost something. Ronan lifted a folded piece of worn wool from the chair. Lena recognized it immediately. "My blanket." It was cleaned. She took it from him. The edge still carried the small tear Ash had made the first night. "I thought the infirmary threw it away. I told them not to." "Why?" Ronan looked at the faded wool. "Everyone in my court taught me to ask what something was worth." His eyes lifted to hers. "You taught me to ask what someone was willing to lose." Lena swallowed. "I don't forgive the man who signed my father's sentence." "I know, but I believe the man standing here understands why he was wrong." Ronan said nothing. He did not reach for her. That mattered. Winter loosened its grip over the next several weeks. The road to Lena's cottage reopened. The old Hart property beyond the tree line was returned to her name. She could have gone home immediately. She did not. Not yet. On the first warm morning of early spring, Lena crossed the palace courtyard carrying fresh herbs. Ash bounded ahead of her, his injured leg nearly strong again. Ronan waited near the open gates. No guards stood between them. No order had brought her there. Ash ran to the king, circled him once, then raced back to Lena. Ronan looked toward the road leading north. "Still thinking about leaving?" "Yes." He nodded. Lena stepped closer. "But not today." For the first time, Ronan smiled without grief behind it. That winter, a dying wolf had scratched at Lena Hart's door and asked for something she could barely afford to give. She had opened it anyway. Now, standing before a king who had finally learned the difference between holding power and deserving trust, Lena understood that the wolf had not only found shelter that night, it had found the one door Ronan Thorne had never known how to open himself. And this time, neither of them needed a command to walk through it.